Hi everyone, this is Erik here. In this series, I'm going to debunk some myths of academic writing. Okay? In particular, in this episode, I'm going to talk about whether academic language, or so we call this, is just technical terms and jargon. Okay? So let's start now. I'm sure many of you will receive comments in your writing that your teachers would require you to write technical, impersonal, and formal English. And these three adjectives have subtle differences. And today I'm going to focus on the first adjective. So here it is. Technical is the topic that we are covering in this episode. This paragraph is an introduction of an essay about same-sex marriage. And this is a model sample, a model paragraph. And I will highlight some of the features that we regard as technical. Okay, so here we go. Let me read it out for you. Same-sex marriage has become increasingly popular in recent years, with 21 countries having recognized same-sex marriage. Meanwhile, Asian countries and regions such as Hong Kong are still in heated debates over this issue. As a pluralistic city with different cultures, Hong Kong is expected to embrace diversity of race, religion, sexual orientation, etc. In addition, there is a growing number of local organizations that advocate equal rights of the lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender LGBT community. According to Ricky Chu-Kin-man, chairman of Equal Opportunities Commission, the Commission seeks to insert initiatives protecting LGBT individuals from discrimination while preferring a step-by-step approach instead of urging the government to recognize same-sex marriage. In a similar vein, although anti-discrimination initiatives should be promoted, legalizing same-sex marriage may be against the wills of the more conservative communities in Hong Kong. In light of this essay will illustrate the arguments against the legalization of same-sex marriage in Hong Kong from the perspective of religion, tradition, and society as a whole. As you read the paragraph, I'm sure you'll be able to identify a few terms, a few phrases that is related to the topic same-sex marriage. Okay, so for example, same-sex marriage, of course, and something related to social inclusion like diversity, equal rights, sexual orientation, and then a particular community or organization like the lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender community, Equal Opportunities Commission. And we also have some kind of field-specific term, something that we usually say only in the academic sense or in legal terms, like anti-discrimination initiatives. So these are, of course, the technical side of writing that you might like to pay attention to. So this reflects how well you understand your topic or how well you understand about your subject. But what I like to focus on would be the longer noun phrases as highlighted in yellow in this page. Okay, so including heated debates, so not very long, but it serves some kind of special purposes in academic writing. I'll explain to you in the next slide. Okay, and diversity of race, religion, sexual orientation, etc. And then we have a noun phrase with an embedding clause. So a growing number of local organizations that advocate equal rights of the lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender community. And then we also have another long noun phrase embedded with a participle clause. So insert initiatives protecting LGBT individuals from discrimination, the arguments against the legislation of same-sex marriage in Hong Kong. So this is the very rationale of this essay for giving points to illustrate legalization of same-sex marriage should not be promoted in Hong Kong. And there are two specific phrases that I would like to highlight. And these two phrases would be one of the most essential features in academic writing as of technicality, because in the academia, we have a habit of turning actions into things. Okay, so that means turning verbs into nouns, or turning qualities such as adjectives into things again. Here we are, the two focus noun phrases in question. Okay, so the first one will be heated debates, and the second will be the arguments against the legalization of same-sex marriage in Hong Kong. So in this case, the first one, debate, is a noun here. Okay, and remember, debate can be either a noun or a verb. So originally we can say Asian countries and regions such as Hong Kong are still debating over this issue fervently. So that is, debate is seen as an action among countries and regions. Okay, and what kind of debate it is? So we describe the action using an adverb, fervently. Okay, so in academic writings, for a lot of times, we like packing actions in the form of noun phrases. Okay, so that we focus more on the action as a thing, as a topic that we are discussing in writing. Okay, so we have a few changes. So debate will become a noun in this case. And we also need more changes. So adverb will be used to describe actions, but now we need adjectives to give qualities to the thing, to debate. So fervently as an adverb will be turned into something synonymous, having similar meaning. So we have heated, so heated debates. Okay, of course we can include the prepositional phrase after debates to see the whole chunk of words as one long noun phrase. Okay, so this is the first one. And the second one, the arguments, we use this expression a lot in academic writing, especially when you are arguing for or against a topic or a statement. Okay, and similarly, originally we might say, I'm not sure whether this is 100% correct if we turn arguments into a verb form. Okay, for example, this essay will argue why same-sex marriage should not be legalized in Hong Kong. And put it the way round, we like turning actions into things, so that you are telling your readers what you are going to focus on would be events, would be the topics. So arguments would be your focus, but not your action. So you might say, this essay will illustrate the arguments against the legalization of same-sex marriage in Hong Kong. So there are a few changes in a series of action, okay, including changing argue into noun, and should not be legalized. And legalized in this case is turned into a noun, okay, legalization, and should not would be turned into a preposition in this case. So against will be the opposite of for. So if you are saying something positive about this topic, you can say arguments for. But if you are saying the otherwise, the opposite, you can say argument against. Okay, so in this case, what you are going to illustrate will be the whole chunk of words after the verb illustrate. Okay, and this is one of the ways to pack your ideas into a more concise noun phrase. So look at the second sentence here. This essay will argue, and then This is one clause, so we call this a clause. And then why same-sex marriage should not be legalized in Hong Kong is another clause. So we have two clauses here. But in this sentence, in the sentence above, you have just one sentence. So this is what we are expecting you to do in academic writing, to write concisely using a process called nominalization. Okay, so this requires a lot of practice. Okay, so this is what we are going to focus on in our future discussions. After talking about the technical terms relevant to the topic or relevant to your subject that would construct the content of your essay, as well as a process of compacting information or compacting actions in a sentence to become noun phrases through the process of nominalization, we can now move on to talk about how these ideas, how these contents are linked logically across sentences in a paragraph. Of course, you may not need the transition phrases that I have highlighted in this example in order to maintain the what we call the coherence or the logical coherence of the paragraph, as long as you can organize the meanings in each sentence carefully. Okay, but of course, it will help your reader a lot if you can signal very clearly what meaning you wish to convey. So in this case, for example, if you wish to signal contrast between the first and second sentence, you can use meanwhile. And if you are shifting focus from a broader region or country, from the world to Asian countries to Hong Kong, you may use a short phrase suggesting or describing what Hong Kong is like. So in this case, a pluralistic city with different cultures, so that you can link Hong Kong with what we call perhaps social inclusion or embracing diversity, as the sentence suggests. And on a relevant point, if you wish to add something related to diversity, for example, you may say in addition. You may use additionally in order to add a relevant point. Okay, if you wish to introduce voices from external sources that supports your point over the issue or about the topic, you can always use a phrase dragging or introducing that speaker in. So like according to Ricky Chicken Man, etc. Okay. And if you wish to show similarities between two sentences in terms of viewpoints, you can say similarly, or using this phrase, in a similar vein. Okay? And towards the end of the paragraph, if you wish to conclude, and in this case, this is an introductory paragraph of an essay, you may wish to introduce your essay as well as the rationale for discussing some points about same-sex marriage. You can use a concluding marker, such as therefore, consequently, or as a result, or in this case, we can use in light of this, in view of this. But I wish to draw your attention on using these kind of transition markers. It's not that you use these markers and your paragraph will be automatically coherent, okay? So when you use these markers, make sure the content, I mean the sentence, contains the meaning which is logically connected to the previous one, okay? These markers are only used for signaling to your reader that you are shifting points. Otherwise, you will be writing nonsense beautifully, okay? So these markers are not model answers to everything. So pay attention to this, but this is one of the ways that you use to maintain the logical flow of a paragraph. So after looking at a model text and examine the features achieving what we call the technicality of a text, it's good that we look at some more or less authentic examples. Okay, so this paragraph is extracted from a student's work after the process of proofreading. Proofreading is an important process during the stage of editing. So don't spend too much time correcting your grammar during the course of writing your essay. Otherwise, you'll be struggling to find accurate expressions, and it drags you from finishing your work. But I must say, proofreading is a way to show your reader that you care about the details, and it's a way to show that your piece of writing is professional and technical. But the whole point of showing you this paragraph would be that after proofreading, even after proofreading, this paragraph doesn't work well in a few senses or on a few aspects, okay? First of all would of course be the technical level of this paragraph. I will use this paragraph to illustrate why it is not impersonal, why it is not formal enough. Okay, so but let me read this paragraph for you. Same-sex marriage becomes much more popular than before. More countries have already legalized same-sex marriage in these few years. Nowadays, 21 countries have legalized gay marriage nationally. Hong Kong is not just an international city, but also a pluralistic city full of different cultures. According to Article 32 of Basic Law in Hong Kong, residents are allowed to have the freedom of religious beliefs, do missionary work, and take part in the religious activities publicly. It is charitable to have a city full of different religions and citizens still respect each other. It shows that Hong Kong is full of social inclusion. Therefore, some people think that Hong Kong will legalize same-sex marriage. However, I do not agree with it, since it will harm our society and tradition. The following gives evidence of keeping gay marriage illegal. So similarly, we can see some technical terms or vocabulary that is relevant to the topic in this paragraph. Okay, for example, same-sex marriage, social inclusion. We also have some laws like Basic Law in Hong Kong, and some terms or some phrases that are related to, for example, diversity or social inclusion, the freedom of religious belief, do missionary work. But you might wish to pay attention to the middle of the paragraph when the writer introduces Article 32 of Basic Law in Hong Kong. So what happens in these two sentences would be, you will find these two sentences talks about religion, okay, missionary work, religious activity, okay. Of course, we understand that the writer wants to show to the reader that Hong Kong is a place that embrace diversity or people having different beliefs. But it seems to me that because this essay or this paragraph talks about same-sex marriage, introducing some other ideas so as to show that Hong Kong is a city that is socially inclusive would be a little bit irrelevant. So if you compare this paragraph to the previous paragraph that I showed you, you may not see this kind of meanings being incorporated into the paragraph. So make sure when you are writing your drafts, pay attention to each paragraph, whether you are talking about the same thing in each paragraph. And then we move on to the second part involving the use of long noun phrases and the process of nominalization to make things more concise in the paragraph. You can see that there are a few. Here we have 3 highlighted in this paragraph that are considerably long noun phrases. But if you look at these 3 phrases, they don't seem to be very technical. Okay, especially the first two, a pluralistic city full of different cultures and a city full of different religions. So it seems to me that these two noun phrases only talk about Hong Kong specifically. Okay, different cultures, different religions seem to be a little bit not relevant to the main topic about same-sex marriage. So when you are constructing long noun phrases, make sure you are thinking about the broader context or broader topic that you are writing. Okay, don't just simply make long noun phrases for the sake of doing that. And the third noun phrase, evidence of keeping gay marriage illegal, is worth using a separate slide to focus on because it is problematic in a few senses, in a few ways, especially about the phrase being uncertain as to whether it is the rationale for writing this essay. I actually would have doubts over the abstract noun evidence because in terms of the rationale for this kind of essay, which is argumentation, of course you are finding support, you are finding sources that justify your arguments, especially in this case, arguments against legalizing gay marriage or same-sex marriage. But it seems that the evidence, the word evidence here, does not fulfill the purpose of argumentation essays. Okay, so instead I would say arguments against keeping gay same-sex marriage legal or recognizing same-sex marriage in if I were the writer. And the second issue in this noun phrase would be the use of synonym. Of course, we understand same-sex marriage would be more or less similar to gay marriage, but you may like to think carefully when you are choosing words in order to, let's say, paraphrase or replacing some repeating terms. Okay, think about whether gay marriage would sufficiently cover the meaning of same-sex or homosexual. All right, so this is up to you. And the third thing that we look at would be the adjective illegal. So it's a logic issue. Okay, so nowadays in Hong Kong, the government hasn't recognized same-sex marriage or homosexual partnership in Hong Kong, but it does not mean homosexuality is illegal or gay marriage illegal. So illegal would mean you will have legal consequences. You will go to jail. You will be fined for being homosexual. So you have to be careful when something that is not legal, it does not mean it is illegal. Okay? Especially this issue or this topic is just not legalized yet. So you have to be careful with these three issues. Whether your noun phrases or the meaning in your essay fulfills the rationale for arguing about a topic, okay, and whether you are choosing synonyms or the words with similar or same meanings carefully, as well as whether you are choosing synonyms logically. Okay, so pay attention when you are doing this. And of course, it's not difficult to find transition markers that links sentences in this example. But you may see the first sentence talks about more countries having already legalized same-sex marriage in these few years. And nowadays, the adverb nowadays or the transition word nowadays seems to be a little bit repetitive. Okay? So if you refer to the model paragraph a few slides ago, you may actually find that I have incorporated the second sentence, 21 countries have legalized gay marriage nationally, to the first sentence because it is repetitive in this sense. Of course, the writer may also choose to introduce external voices to his or her essay. So fine, I'm fine with that. But when you are doing so, make sure the sentences that you use the according to blah 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 with are relevant to the current topic. Okay, so in this case, as we have illustrated earlier on, when you introduce Article 32 of Basic Law in Hong Kong, it actually does not talk anything about same-sex marriage. So you have to be careful when you are using transitions like these. And because of the content up there, okay, so it's not wrong to use therefore in this case, but in writing, I mean. But in this case, as the topic that the writer has set up is not very strong, the result or the consequence after therefore will be rather weak. And you may also note that the subject of this sentence is some people. And as a teacher, as a marker, I would say this kind of expression as vague. Of course, this is out of the scope of our discussion today, but I would talk about using voices wisely to illustrate your points. So who are the some people? And at the end of this paragraph, some of my students said, this writer has a very clear stance. He or she does not agree with this argument, with the use of however. So the word however signals a shift in direction. Okay, so originally, there are arguments that support legalizing same-sex marriage. But after, however, the writer introduces his or her viewpoint and gives some brief reasons. But in this case, note the use of I with do not agree. So in academic writing, especially in writing for assessment, if you are writing like this at the university level, your teacher will say you are overly personal. And because academic discussions should focus more on the content relevant to the topic than your own personal interpretation or your own personal judgment on the matter. So usually, very briefly, your teacher will talk you out of using I with thinking verbs such as agree, think, believe, etc. Okay, so there are a million ways that you can rephrase this kind of personal stance in academic writing so as to achieve what we call the impersonal style or the objective evaluation. Okay, so we will talk about that in the next episode. But the whole point here is, again, the use of transitions or the markers like these would not guarantee the logical linkage across the paragraph. So you have to organize and consider the content in your paragraph carefully and do a check when you finish writing the paragraph to see whether you are talking about the same topic across the paragraph. So here is a quick wrap up. So in terms of writing technically, or the notion of technicality in this sense, as I have illustrated to you, would be the terms, using terms specific in the discipline and relevant to the topic. And you may also use noun phrases that convert action into things. So one of the very important features in academic writing. And after ensuring the logical flow of meanings inside a text or the paragraph, you may also consider using markers that signal how logic flows in the text. We might say technicality would involve demonstrating field-specific knowledge, and you are working on refining the wording for conciseness, and of course maintaining the logical flow of ideas. Okay, so that's all for part one. And in the next episode, I'll talk about how you can give your viewpoints less personally or less subjectively. Okay, so thanks for watching. See you.